Well, hello. Good morning. Welcome to another edition of on my channel, Gboot2786. This is Gavin Richard. Welcome to Gavin Richard Presents. Guys, I have been, excuse me, out and about. Literally, I've been sick for the last week or two. So there's a reason why you haven't seen me do anything recently. I have always been trying to follow up with the latest video, but I didn't want to come on there with my nose crusty and all and stuff. And I have Forrest Whitaker eye and shit. So but yeah, I have been under the weather, and it's week before, but I'm feeling much better now, and it's the week of Christmas. So, Merry Christmas, everyone. I hope you all are enjoying yourselves wherever you are, whoever you are. You're having a wonderful Christmas time. Make sure you guys, get all your shopping done, and try not to oversplurge. And a lot of people, especially around this time of year, when they go and buy presents for their loved ones and gifts and stuff, this is actually the time when they can get into serious debt because you're trying to buy everything. And on top of that, with Christmas, with the lights and electricity, all of that stuff gets eaten up. And excuse me 1 second. Speaking of electricity, I left the lights on. Hold on. So, all right. So, trying to get some more people in to jump in on the conversation. Uh, let's see. All right. Who's ever in the chat room, why don't you say something? Good morning to you. Let's get started. I don't want to take up too much of this video because speaking of Christmas, I got some more Christmas cleaning and Christmas lights to hang up and stuff. I'm trying to beat the weather. So, guys, if you have big news that's been going on, I know that, of course, we got this stuff with the impeachment. I don't want to deal with that just yet, but I did want to talk about what happened recently or this past week. See, I'm still trying to recover over this cold. But those of you know, this past week to Oprah Winfrey, it was announced that she was going to be doing a docu-series on Russell Simmons and an alleged accuser of Russell Simmons. Now, of course, since the era of this so-called Me Too movement, many prominent black men, and yes, they also rules are completely different, and the punishment is completely different because Bill Cosby's in jail, but Harvey Weinstein is still out, and of course, R. Kelly's in jail, but Woody Allen is still free, and so is Les Moonves and Charlie Sheen, who's been accused of actually giving women HIV. The rules are different for everyone, but Oprah Winfrey is doing a docu series, or she is executive producing it, which is supposed to air, I believe, sometime next year for the Apple TV series, Apple Plus, and she's the executive producer of it. And let's not forget, we remember when Oprah actually helped these two known liars, Wade Robinson and James Safechuck, who accused Michael Jackson, these two sissies that accused Michael Jackson of child molestation when these guys have been caught in multiple lies. It ain't even funny. They've even had their cases dismissed in court, and so they're trying to revive it so they can get obviously a check. a payment. And it's completely disgusting and embarrassing that Oprah even entertained that, and she tried to defend herself when she was on, uh, was it Trevor Noah's show on the Daily Show, which I don't even watch that. I don't see why that's funny, but a lot of people watch and follow that stuff. And uh, 50 Cent, and say what you want about 50 Cent, but 50 Cent actually clapped back at Winfrey and roasted her because of that. Excuse me, guys. And you can actually check out, he made an Instagram post, uses platform essentially to go after black men. And Russell Simmons even clapped back at her as well. And a lot of people I've seen, Ricky Smiley, he actually had a comment on it a few days ago. Brother Tariq Nasheed, shout out to both of them. They've commented on it. I think that he does have a valid point about Oprah, because let's not forget something about Oprah. Or Oprah, that's actually her real name, Oprah Winfrey. I call her Oprah because Oprah Winfrey is someone I generally never had any respect for. Oprah used her platform when she was on television, and she had that show back in, the Oprah Winfrey show. She always used her platform, I felt, to demean black men, especially straight heterosexual black men. Now, yes, she had prominent black men on her TV show. I've seen episodes where she's had Eddie Murphy, she had Richard Pryor, and Michael Jordan, I believe, was on her show, being that they were from Chicago and so forth. And even Russell Simmons has been on the show. And let's not forget, Russell Simmons, uh, he is an icon in the hip hop community. He helped take rap to a multi-billion-dollar industry with Def Jam, what he and Rick Rubin did back in the mid 80s when rap was still in its baby stages. And of course, they did have, a few moderate hits like the Sugar Hill Games, Rapper's Delight and Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five and so forth with The Message. Their rap was not a thought of as this multi-million-dollar industry that it has now become, billion-dollar industry. And they owe that to Russell Simmons, not to mention also what he did with Def Comedy Jam, giving many black comedians like D.L. Hughley, Chris Tucker, Bernie Mac, Steve Harvey, Cedric the Entertainer, I can go on, Dave Chappelle, the some more, the Moniques, the Bruce, Ricky Smile, all of them that have been on that show got their break because of Def Comedy Jam, and Russell Simmons played a big part of that. And it seems now all of our icons, our male icons, and I talk about this frequently, are getting torn down one by one. So 50, and 50 basically is the oldest troll I know of on Twitter, because he comes for everybody. Like when he's got something smart aleck to say, he doesn't hold back. And 50 has 25 million followers. But 50 posted this. He said, I don't understand why Oprah is going after black men. No Harvey Weinstein, no Epstein, just Michael Jackson and Russell Simmons. This shit is sad. Gail hit R. Kelly with the Death Blow documentary, Gail King, yeah, when she interviewed him on CBS. Every time I hear Michael Jackson, I don't know whether to dance or think about the little boys' butts. And 50 did that before when he talked about Paris Jackson earlier. And, a lot of people didn't like what 50 said about that. But I digress. These documentaries are publicly convicting their targets and makes them guilty till proven innocent. Uh, Yeah, I agree with him on that. Documentaries now have taken place in the court of public opinion, and they've taken the place of the court of law. And I believe that certainly within that, because of that, when people see things on television, television is a very powerful medium. It has the power to make the people who are guilty look innocent, and has the ability to make the innocent look guilty. And Malcolm X even warned us about that because, when you do an interview, when you sit down, you can do a whole entire interview, but that interview can be cut into 5 minutes. If you do an hour interview, they can cut it down to 5 minutes and just get what they want. If they're trying to air something for the 10 o'clock show, they may interview for 30 minutes or whatever. In the editing room, they do things to make people uh, say something that probably they didn't mean to say, but to make it look like they were stupid. So, and let's not forget too, Oprah never used her platform even recently to help Bill Cosby. As many times as Bill Cosby has been on the Oprah Winfrey show, and that also goes in, and I also want to say that about Tom Joyner too, who just retired this past week. Tom Joyner and Bill Cosby are frat brothers, Omega Psi Phi, and Tom's career, the 25 years that he was there, Bill Cosby always appeared at the Sky Show when they were in Philadelphia. He always helped to raise money for HBCUs. And yes, what Tom did with HBCUs, raising money, millions, that's great. But let's also look at this too. When it comes to our HBCUs, as much as we need to support them, how many of them have actually helped and turned out the Black community? What has it gained the Black community in the last 25 years? While we have individuals who go on to great success, we don't have the entire community moving forward. Did they ever set up entrepreneur classes? Did they ever teach kids about the stock market? See, we never learned anything about financial literacy. We never learned stuff like that coming up. And had we learned all of that, had our parents probably taught us more about financial literacy, if they had parents that did the same thing, knowing how to invest in money, how to invest in real estate, how to invest in certain stocks, and how to save money, maybe we would be millionaires. Maybe we could shop with each other and we wouldn't be as far apart as we are. And Dr. Cosby, tying this back in, trying to bring it back, he was a great philanthropist. And Oprah, yeah, she has even given money to HBCUs, but Oprah has used her platform, like I said again, to attack Black men. And 50 is 1,000% right. I think he has a valid point. Combined what she did with Michael Jackson, you've never seen Oprah do anything. Let's take it a step further. Even under this, if she wants to be an advocate for sexual abuse victims, because she always claimed she was a sexual abuse victim, why hasn't she done a documentary on Harvey Weinstein? Well, I'll tell you why. Because she was hugged up with those guys. Seal has even called Oprah Winfrey out because he says that she knew the stuff that Harvey Weinstein was doing. Oprah, you have in Hollywood a bunch of hypocrites. And you see, another thing we need to do, we need to stop placing these celebrities on pedestals like they speak for us, because they don't. They do not. Yeah, you can admire someone. You can be a hero, someone be a hero, but they do not represent the Black community. And they won't. And when they do speak for us, sometimes, most often than not, there's some who do us real proud. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to deny that. But there are some who just flat out outcoon. They say some of the most outlandish shit you would think of. And Russell Simmons even commented on Instagram, "Dearest Oprah, you've been a shining light to me, to my family, and my community, contributing so much to my life that I couldn't list a fraction of it in this blog. I have given you the gift of meditation and the groundbreaking book, The Power of Now, we've honored to say the least. This is why it is so troubling that you chose me to single out in your recent documentary. I have already admitted to being a playboy, more appropriately titled today, womanizer, sleeping with and putting myself in more compromising situations than almost any man I know. Not 8 or 14,000 like Warren Beatty or Wilt Chamberlain, but still an embarrassing number. So many that some could reinterpret or reimagine a different recollection of the same experiences. Please note that your producer said that this upcoming doc was to focus on only 3 hand-chosen women. I have refused to get in the mud with any accusers, but let's acknowledge what I have shared. I have taken and passed 9 3-hour lie detector tests taken from my daughters. That these stories have been passed on by NBC, CNN, BuzzFeed, New York Post, New York Mag, and others. Now that you have reviewed the facts, and you should have learned what I know, that these stories are unusable and that hurt people hurt people. Today, I received a call from an old girlfriend from the early 1980s, which means that they are using my words, evidence against me, and their commitment and all of the claims are 25 to 40 years old. It is impossible to prove what happened 40 years ago, but in my case, proof exists of what didn't happen, mostly signed letters from their own parents, siblings, roommates, band members, interns, and in the case of two of your three accusers, their own words in their books. Shocking how many people have misused this important on anyone. Still, I am here to help support a necessary shift in power and consciousness. Let us get to work on uplifting humanity and put this movement and old narrative behind us. Okay, so that was Russell's take on it. And let's not forget also, now that we think of Oprah, Oprah also had been accused, been involved, she was sued for that school that she put out in South Africa, the Leadership Academy for Girls, because it was acknowledged that the school matron had been charged with sexually abusing uh, several girls at that school. And Oprah had to settle a defamation lawsuit with the school's ousted headmistress lodged against her, according to CNN. So you see, Oprah is the biggest hypocrite. And ladies, I remember my mom actually watching the Oprah Winfrey show when she came home from work. Like, I would always turn that channel on, and I always hated seeing her watching it because I couldn't stand Oprah. When I came home from school, I just couldn't watch it. But she was obviously wanted to see this black woman who was a multimillionaire that was successful and so forth. And of course, Oprah, like so many of our so-called black icons, when they're on television, when they have TV shows, there's a white man behind there. And Roger King was the executive producer of the Oprah Winfrey Show. He's the reason why there is an Oprah Winfrey. And let us not forget this quote from Oprah herself, where she told Barbara Walters, and this was in 1980, where she said she thought of herself as being white. She wished she were white. Listen here.
Did you ever wish you were white? As a little girl, I wanted to be yeah, I did. I was growing up in Mississippi, and it's the kind of thing that I hesitate to say because when you say it.
Okay, that was the end of it. But yeah, hurt people hurt people. But those were her words. She wished she were white as a child, growing up in Mississippi. And Oprah even, I believe she grew up, she went to school, HBCU out in Tennessee. I can't think of the name. Anybody that knows, shout out. We got 3 people in the chat room. Come on, say something. Nobody's talking. All right. Well, Oprah, another thing I couldn't understand too is why women took relationship advice from Oprah Winfrey when she's been with the same man for 30 years, engaged to the same man for 30 years, and women would take relationship advice from her. And she never married. She didn't even want children. And on top of that, Oprah did not, I don't think she even values Stedman too much. I think that she values Gail, if you dig my meaning. I've always thought her and Gail were lovers. I think Stedman was her beard. Oprah Winfrey, I think she was a disgrace for doing this. She did it to Michael Jackson. She's doing it to Russell Simmons, and her friend did it with R. Kelly. Now, whether you like R. Kelly or not, and you don't believe he's innocent, which I necessarily don't believe he's innocent, but I don't like Salem witch trials. I don't like the court of public opinion taking precedent over the court of law. And we have to be careful about that when we sign off on things, whether you like a person or not. And you see that with Bill Cosby. Now, getting into my next comment, of course, anybody that saw Saturday Night Live last night, shout out if you did. Eddie Murphy hosted. This was the last show of the year, and it went out with a bang. Now, I didn't grow up necessarily seeing Eddie Murphy on SNL. I was born in '86, so he had left by that time. But I grew up with Eddie Murphy, and I grew up watching all of his movies. Of course, all of us practically did. If you've seen Coming to America, I had that. We had that video at my grandmother's house that we played on repeat. Trading Places, 48 Hours. My fondest Eddie Murphy moment. One of them was when he played the Pharaoh in Remember the Time video with Michael Jackson and Iman, and directed by John Singleton. Great video, one of Michael Jackson's best. I remember all of that, and I even grew up watching, his comedy routines, his stand-up specials like Raw and Delirious, which was great. Raw is one of the was the one that I really enjoyed. I remember because of the Bill Cosby sketch and the Bill Cosby Richard Pryor skit that he did. And yesterday he hosted SNL, and excuse me one second, guys. Oh. Sorry. So yeah, Eddie Murphy killed last night watching SNL, and I would watch his old sketch. I actually have the best of Eddie Murphy SNL DVD. Now, most people in even Eddie references don't even watch Saturday Night Live because it hasn't been funny in years. Eddie Murphy single-handedly saved SNL back in the '80s because at that time, the original Saturday Night Live cast members like Bill Murray and Chevy Chase and Gilda Radner, Garrett Morris, Jane Curtin, and Lorraine Newman, all of those actors and actresses, those comedians and comedians, they left to move on to other projects. And Lorne Michaels had even quit the show. So Eddie came on as a featured player with Joe Piscopo and a few others. And in that 1980-81 season, they actually, after that season ended, they actually fired the entire cast except Eddie Murphy and Joe Piscopo. And I remember that from reading that, Dick Ebersol took over. And then that's going to be key. Remember that name, Dick Ebersol, because I'm going to mention that a little bit later. He took over as executive producer of Saturday Night Live, and he hired Eddie Murphy to regular, bumped him up, and of course, he went off like a rocket. There was no stopping Eddie Murphy. And I remember watching, his sketch and so forth, like Gumby and Buckwheat. Comedy Central actually used to replay the old 1980 Saturday Night Live when Eddie Murphy was there. I remember Richie Cutting when he made fun of Ron Howard and called him Opie Cunningham. That was pretty funny. But Eddie was a single-handed reason why Saturday Night Live stayed on. And of course, he did Buckwheat yesterday. He rehashed some of the old skits. And, it was a nostalgic thing to see that. And then when they got on stage he did his monologue with Tracy Morgan and Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock. And later Kenan Thompson came over. But, of course, Kenan is not even in that category with the likes of Rock and Chappelle and Murphy. Sorry, guys. Excuse me. That's why I didn't want to come on here, but I did want to talk about this. So, excuse me. So Eddie Murphy, in his monologue, I thought everything was great, except, of course, he made a joke in reference to Bill Cosby. And the headlines now, if you go on the New York Post website, the headline about his monologue, is it here? This is on Fox News. This is Deadline. SNL Eddie Murphy roasts Bill Cosby, welcomes Tracy Morgan, Chris Rock, and Dave Chappelle. Now, sorry, I'm still trying to fight this, trying to break this up, guys. This was the joke that Eddie Murphy did. He said during his monologue, if you told me 30 years ago that I'd be this boring stay-at-home house dad and Bill Cosby would be in jail, even I would have taken that bet, Murphy said, adding the voice of this great comedian. Who is America's dad now? Yeah. So I'm gonna let you hear it. I'll play a quick clip. Hold on.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's great to be back here finally hosting Saturday Night Live for Christmas. Yeah, this is the last episode of 2019. But if you're black, this is the first episode since I left back in 1984. It's been a really long time. Here's actually a picture of me back when I first started. Yeah, I look at least 5 years younger there. Well, you know what they always say? Money don't crack. So much has changed. I actually just had a new baby just about a year ago. That means I have 10 kids now. 11 if you count Kevin Hart. I'm kidding. I love Kevin Hart. I'm just teasing. My kids are actually pretty much my whole life now. And you know what? But if you had told me 30 years ago that I would be this boring, stay-at-home, house dad, and Bill Cosby would be in jail, even I would have took that bet. I'll tell you, who is America's dad now? Yeah, I also have a new movie right now that's playing on Netflix called Dolomite Is My Name.
Okay. So that's just the clip of the monologue. Of course, later on in the monologue, Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock and Tracy Morgan come on because it was epic to see them on stage. And then another guy was coming on, a white guy. I don't know his name. I'm sorry. And then Keaton pushed him out of the way, which was part of the skit, just to have the black male stars of SNL there. But I didn't necessarily care for that part, but I understood. It didn't in the game of comedy. Nothing is sacred. In stand up, you talk about whatever you want, whether you talk about your family, you're talking about your kids, your job, sex, drugs, race. There's nothing sacred anymore. And it's fair game. And a lot of people I know who are fans of Bill Cosby, especially the supporters, they probably they didn't like it. And not necessarily didn't care for it per se. But I understood on that, and I knew he was going to talk about him just because that he even told Al Roker this past week there was going to be a Bill Cosby sketch. Now, of course, they didn't do that. I'm glad that they didn't. Kenan Thompson did that sketch with Cosby in jail, which a lot of people didn't like. It's sad that Mr. Cosby's in jail and it was really a kangaroo court, but when people have made up their decisions in their minds about things, they're going to, doesn't matter what the facts are, doesn't matter what you show them. Once people have made their mind up, once they've made their decision, they're going to continue. They're just going to follow with that, regardless of how wrong they may or may not be. Uh, you know, I understand it's comedy, and and some people don't get it. I thought, uh, yeah, in terms of comedy, it was a funny joke, and I thought Eddie was great the whole night. Now, what's interesting, Anthony Coulon says nobody black makes it out of the game clean. You are absolutely right. Now, I will say this too. I will not be surprised now because Eddie is on this high, and Eddie Murphy is one of my heroes. I'm not gonna lie. I wouldn't be surprised though if a few years from now, down the line, Eddie Murphy gets a Me Too charge put on him. And I'm glad, Anthony, you mentioned that because let's not forget there were things in Eddie's past, uh, that could be brought up. There are things about Chris Rock that they've been accused of sexual misconduct. Now, of course, I don't really want to talk about other people's business because I don't know the facts to that, and they've never been charged with anything criminally. I do remember that incident that Eddie had with the tranny. I know Chris had a rape, I think a sexual assault charge against him that was found to be bogus. I actually know the private investigator who worked on that. He was the same PI in the Bill Cosby case, Scott Ross. He talked to me about some of this stuff because that goes on. And so that's why I'm cautious, just me, this is just me, when I see other black people talking about another black person who's, you know, obviously the low hanging fruit, like Dr. Cosby is right now. But just as as Eddie Murphy saved SNL, Bill Cosby in and of itself saved the national broadcasting company, NBC, which SNL happens to be one of their longest running uh, shows on that very network. Because at that time, the sitcom world was thought to be dead. Bill Cosby reinvented and rejuvenated that very genre. Back in the early 80s, you had shows like Magnum PI on CBS that was kicking uh, the ass of NBC. NBC was dead last in terms of ratings, and I think they were even going bankrupt until of course, they had the Facts of Life and Different Strokes, but those shows, as good as they were, it kept them going. And they had the Tonight Show too, which helped. I think after the Tonight Show, when Bill Cosby did a sketch about family, was when Brandon Turnikoff, who was the head of NBC programming at that time, approached Bill about doing the show. And through the advice of Camille Cosby, she helped create or change the characters that Bill Cosby and a guy by the name of Ed Weinberger created, where the family, the Huxtables, were actually going to be this blue collar, working class family. I believe the wife was supposed to be a plumber and the father was supposed to be a limo driver. Cosby changed that. Mrs. Cosby changed it and said, no, you're not going to do that. Change her into being a lawyer and you're going to be the doctor. And he agreed. Listen to your wives, man. And he changed that. Sorry, I hate this. But he changed that. And it became The Cosby Show is what we now know today. And I don't stop watching The Cosby Show because of that. Now they put it on TV One. It's back on TV during late hours if you guys try to watch it. It's on TV One. They'll have it running. But I don't think that they should take off the show off the air. Just like if you're going to take that off the air, well, we got to take down every Weinstein film that he ever produced. If we're going to go that route, we got to take down all of Woody Allen's movies. Hell, why don't you take Seventh Heaven off the air in reruns? I'm sure Jessica Biel would like that. Catherine Hicks. I'm sure all of those people who had nothing to do with Stephen Collins' actions would appreciate that you're taking money out of their pocket. And but no, getting back to what I said, I know Nicole. Shout out to Nicole's view. I know she didn't care for the sketch, but I was talking to my friend on Facebook. He said perhaps there was a compromise where they wanted Eddie to do the Bill Cosby sketch, and Eddie said no, and just did this reference to Bill Cosby. Now, of course, about this show in its entirety, I like the Mr. Robinson sketch that uh, he did on SNL. He brought that back. He brought back Gumby. He brought back Buckwheat, but only briefly. And I didn't think the Buckwheat sketch was all that, but that was more for nostalgia purposes why he did that. Um, Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood was my favorite. Gumby was my favorite. I thought Gumby was the best one, but I thought that was my personal favorite. But it was good to see those characters that he had in the '80s that he brought back. He did the he did a sketch at the end about being an elf that witnessed witnessed the crime, which had me laughing. And it was also one where they did Home for the Holidays, where he just was tripping, and I thought all of it was funny, But it's to each his own. Some people aren't going to only Murphy. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I was reading something. Yeah, but I wasn't surprised by it that he did that. When you're low hanging fruit, as I say, and you're down on you're on the ground, you're easy pickings. It's natural when people are down and out, they'll do stuff like that where they'll throw you under the bus, even though you've already under it. And what's interesting too, when Eddie Murphy was on SNL a few years back for their 40th anniversary, Eddie Murphy refused to actually participate in a sketch about Bill Cosby. He refused to do it when he was offered. He declined. All he did was say hello to everyone. Thank you. When Chris Rock introduced him back on stage, everybody was excited to see Eddie Murphy back. And he also did Velvet Jones too, which was okay. But Saturday Night Live honestly has not been funny in a long time. I've always enjoyed In Living Color, honestly, over that. Hell, even Mad TV I thought was a better sketch comedy series. See if anybody remembers a sketch comedy series on WB that didn't last long. It was called Hype. Did anybody know that? Shout out if you remember that. But yeah, SNL's not been all that to me. And I thought Eddie Murphy, it was great to see him back. Of course, people didn't care for the Cosby joke, but I knew he was going to make a reference to it. I thought something was going to happen because he did it already at the Kennedy Center honors. But it's always, but it was funny nonetheless. In terms of comedy, and I thought that to see some of the sketches brought back memories as a kid to see. But you got to remember too, Lorne Michaels. And I mentioned Dick Ebersol. When Dick Ebersol took over, SNL's funded by liberals. Yeah, well, SNL has only been on, and this is true, because they are actually the ones that make, they're the only premier comedy sketch comedy show that I know that's on TV. There's never had any rivals. I mean, they tried to bring the Living Color back, and Keenan Ivory Wayans refused to do that. I remember Mad TV came back for a little while, but it wasn't the same. And I remember, and I know for a fact that SNL's ratings, their highest ratings are usually around the presidential election. So usually when they have a presidential race that's going on, of course, they make fun of Donald Trump, and they don't like Trump. But honestly, we've had ghettos before Trump was in office. We've had a black president before Trump was in office who basically shitted on the black community and didn't do a whole lot, especially in his last year when, in actuality, when he was supposed to have a very difficult time as president in his first year. You would think even in his, I'm sorry, not his first year, his first term, you would think in his second term he could do more. But no, he actually only with people he helped out was really gays and white women. That was primarily his whole. That was his agenda that he pushed was the neo democratic platform, and we black people have been the worst off from it. Now, Mad TV was really good. Yeah, Pirate Brain said Mad TV was pretty good. I thought Mad TV was yeah, it was excellent. Well, remember when the original cast left Mad TV when they had Orlando Jones and Phil Lamar, Deborah Wilson. They had Nicole Sullivan. Nicole Sullivan was pretty funny. Yeah, Deborah Wilson was pretty funny. David Herman, Artie Lang. That was the original cast. Mary Shearer, I think is her name. Who else? Who else they had on there? They had a lot of people. Will Sasso came later on, but I loved Will Sasso as Steven Seagal. That was probably fun. The funniest sketches I always enjoyed. Ari Spears came later. All right, but I remember my thing was in Living Color. Yeah, but the show went downhill. But when they had Homie the Clown, which Paul Mooney wrote, they had they would and they didn't make fun of Michael Jackson. At that time he was Tommy Davidson. I remember the Joe Jackson sketches that David Allen Greer used to do, which were pretty funny. Um, you know, they had the Rock'em Sock'em robots with Jill Jackson beating all the Jackson kids, beat Michael, hit him so hard, knocked the white out. I'm not gonna lie, man. I laughed at it as a kid. And Nicole probably wouldn't like Nicole from Nicole. She probably wouldn't like it, or some other Michael fans. But I mean, it was funny, and I think the Wayne's family and the Jacksons are good friends in real life. So Michael actually, from my understanding, he had an incredible sense of humor. So he probably thought it was funny. You were out of the country when Living Color was on. Yeah, well, they did jokes about Michael's skin color changing, like the Jackson potato hair. And you know who else got their start on In Living Color outside of Jim Carrey? Jennifer Lopez. Yeah, Jennifer Lopez was a fly girl. That was actually the best part of In Living Color when watching the Fly Girls, especially not not so much Jennifer as I was checking out the girl Josie. She had back too. That's what we said back in the day. That baby got back. Yeah, the main black female dancer that was on there, and I don't know her name, but I know Carrie Ann Arbor. She was on In Living Color. That's how she got her start. Uh, I remember who else got their start. Jamie Foxx got their start on In Living Color. Uh, Kim Coles. She played Sinclair on Living Single. A lot of people don't remember, but she was an original cast member on In Living Color at one point. She only stayed for a year though. She didn't stay long, but I remember when they did that sketch about Oprah, and we're talking about roasting Oprah. They would show Kim Wayans would always do Oprah Winfrey gaining weight. And I remember she was always talking to the audience members and to the to her guests while she's roasting her pig, eating chips, and when she kept eating, she blew up, and chips and stuff was scattered everywhere. And even David Wayans is eating a potato chip from his sister who blew up in it. Yeah, that was funny, man. It's just bringing back a lot of memories. Yeah, Jim Carrey, I remember him. Fire Marshal Bill. I'm a little pissed off. And who else? What else he did? Drew Milo when he played the steroid woman. When he did, he and Damon Wayans did a skit called the 750, the 400 Club, where they were basically these cheap rip-off pastors, and they were forgiving sins. And I'll never forget where one guy, they called him, yes, we're going to forgive your sins. And we got a special for you at $99.99. And they had a guy called in saying he was on death row. Oh, well, you ain't got much time, so we gonna have to raise that up to $2.99. That stuff was classic. But anyway, guys, I'm coughing this stuff up. I'm sick. But it's good to reminisce about stuff like that. And they even made fun of Eddie on that show, Reverend Carl Pathos. Yes. Eddie, when they made fun of Eddie Murphy on that show, they made fun of Arsenio Hall definitely when Keenan would have the big, extra long ET fingers. Oh, yes, we're going to have a good time. He had everything about Arsenio down, from his mannerisms, how he wouldn't pay attention to a guest. Sometimes he would just be dazing. And when they had David Alan Grier as Marion Barry, and Arsenio is gazing, and Marion Barry is like, "Hey, you wake up!" Oh, my brother, I got a videotape. They say you was smoking. They told me you weren't going to talk about that, man. David Alan Grier was kicks. But anyway, guys, let me go. I got this cold I'm getting out. But shout out to everyone. Yeah, Jamie Foxx was killing it on that show. As Wanda, I thought that was his best sketch. Did I ever find David Alan Grier funny? Yeah, I did. The Men on Film sketch, where they played the two gay men, Damon Wayans and David Alan Grier. Blaine Edwards and Antoine Merriweather. Two snaps and a twist. I thought that was funny. The very first sketch that they did, David Alan Grier said, "Now I want to talk about a film I've been anxiously waiting to see, Great Balls of Fire." And Damon Wayans would be like, "I'm not going to touch it. But the title alone gets 2 snaps up." Let me go, guys. I'm sorry. Guys, let me go. I'm coughing this stuff up. I didn't want. Shit. You guys have a great Sunday. Enjoy your week. Merry Christmas. I'll see y'all later. Peace. Oh, please subscribe to the channel. Yeah, I got to drink some more water. I'm trying, guys. Please subscribe to the channel. Donate if you could. To my Cash App, Gavin Richard, SESQ at the end, as well as my Google Pay, gavin.grich1@gmail.com. Yeah, cool. Please subscribe. Mr. Pirate Brain, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Thank you all. Peace out. Love you.